Artia, a deaf puppy, a family in danger. But what happens next will leave you breathless. Prepare for a tale of courage that defies all odds. Before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support is essential and helps us share these incredible stories of resilience and love with the world. Every subscription counts, so please hit that button now. The clock ticked ominously in the quiet home, the only sound breaking the stillness. A small, white puppy named Max lay curled up on the living room rug, his ears perked up as he sensed a shift in the air. Something was off. He couldn't hear the crackling of flames or the smell of smoke, but his instincts were sharper than anyone realized. As shadows danced on the walls, Max's eyes darted toward the basement door. He felt the heat rising, a strange warmth that wasn't normal. The family was settled in for the night, blissfully unaware of the impending danger. Max stood up, his heart racing. He sensed the urgency, the tension thickening in the air like a heavy fog. With every fiber of his being, he knew he had to act. He bounded toward the basement door, his small frame filled with determination. What he did next would change everything. The safety of his family rested on his tiny paws, and he was ready to fight against the odds. Max's tiny heart raced as he pawed frantically at the basement door, his instincts screaming that time was running out. His family was nestled comfortably in their rooms, unaware of the danger lurking just beneath their feet. He could sense the warmth growing stronger, a heavy, oppressive heat that was foreign in their cozy home. In the adjoining kitchen, Sarah, the family's eldest daughter, was preparing for bed. She glanced toward the living room, where Max had been dozing just moments ago. "Max, what are you doing?" she called, her voice laced with curiosity. She walked over, her brow furrowing as she noticed the urgency in the puppy's actions. "Max, come here," she beckoned, but he didn't budge. Instead, he continued to scratch at the door, his small body trembling with determination. Sarah knelt down, her heart sinking at the sight of her beloved puppy. "What's wrong, buddy? Are you okay?" At that moment, Jake, the family's father, appeared in the kitchen. "What is it, Sarah?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "I don't know. Max seems really upset about something," she replied, glancing back at the door. Jake joined them, kneeling beside Max, who was now whining softly, a sound he rarely made. "Is it the storm? I know it's been loud outside, but it's just thunder." Jake's voice was calm, trying to soothe his daughter, but a nagging feeling crept into his mind. Max's instincts were sharper than any human's. He sensed the flicker of danger, something sinister building in the depths of their home. He couldn't hear the crackling flames, but he could feel the increasing heat. A soft glow of light began to seep through the cracks of the basement door, and it ignited a primal fear within him. "Maybe he's hungry," Jake suggested, though he didn't believe it himself. "I'll get him a treat." As he stood up to fetch something from the pantry, Max's eyes widened as he sensed Jake's back was turned. With newfound urgency, Max bolted toward the basement door and pushed against it with his small body. It didn't budge, but he kept trying, desperate to communicate the urgency that was clawing at his insides. "Max, stop it," Sarah pleaded, her voice rising in concern. "You're going to hurt yourself." But Max was relentless. He was barking now, though it came out as a series of high-pitched yips, words that held a weight of warning no one seemed to understand. "Is he trying to tell us something?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know, but we need to check it out," Jake said, moving back to the door. He placed his hand on the knob, hesitating. "If something's wrong, I want to be careful." Just then, the family's youngest member, little Lucy, peeked around the corner. "What's wrong with Max?" she asked, her innocent eyes wide with worry. "Max is just being a silly puppy," Jake said, trying to reassure her. "Nothing to worry about." But even he felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. "Max, come here," Lucy called, waving her tiny hands. But Max, fixated on the door, let out a series of frantic barks, his determination unwavering. In that moment, the air shifted again, a wave of heat surging through the house, causing everyone to pause. Sarah felt a bead of sweat forming on her brow. "Dad, it's really warm in here. I think something might be wrong." Jake's heart raced as he turned the knob and opened the door just a crack. The blast of warmth that greeted him was alarming. "Oh no! Lucy, get back!" he shouted, urgency coursing through his veins. Max took this moment to surge forward, pushing through the gap Jake had created. He raced down the stairs, his instincts guiding him toward the source of the heat, his small body moving with a courage that belied his size. "Max, wait!" Sarah cried out, her heart pounding as she followed him, and Jake quickly followed suit, adrenaline surging through him. As they descended the stairs, the glow of fire flickered ominously, illuminating the walls with a menacing light. The scent of smoke began to fill the air, and panic gripped Jake's heart. "We have to get out!" he shouted, but Max was already darting ahead, his bravery shining through the chaos. What was it that drove this little puppy forward? Was it the instinct to protect? The bond of family? Or something deeper? Some thought he was searching for a lost family. Others believed he sensed the danger before anyone else could. But what was undeniable was his fierce loyalty, a heart that beat for the ones he loved. As the flames began to roar, Max turned back, his eyes filled with urgency as he beckoned the family to follow him. "This way," he seemed to say with every ounce of his being. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. Max led the family up the stairs, navigating the smoke-filled air with a determination that left them in awe. His actions were nothing short of heroic. The family followed, their breaths coming in quick gasps, the heat intensifying with every passing second. In that moment, a bond was forged, a connection deeper than words, a testament to the courage that can arise even in the most unexpected forms. Max was not just a deaf puppy, he was their savior, a beacon of hope in a night that threatened to swallow them whole. As they burst out of the house, gasping for fresh air, Jake turned back, his heart swelling with gratitude for the little hero who had saved them all. Max led his family outside, the cool night air washing over them like a sudden wave of relief. They stood on the lawn, gasping for breath, their hearts racing from the terror they had just escaped. But as they looked back at the house, flames licking the windows and smoke billowing into the sky, a new wave of emotions washed over them. Jake hugged Lucy tightly, his mind racing with thoughts of what could have happened, if not for Max. "We need to call the fire department," he said, his voice trembling. Sarah nodded, her heart still pounding, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread creeping back into her mind. As they stood there, watching the flames devour their home, they began to notice the neighbors gathering, drawn by the commotion. Among them was Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who had always been wary of dogs, especially since Max came into their lives. "Is everyone okay?" she called out, her eyes wide with concern. But as she spotted Max, her expression shifted. "That dog? You let that deaf puppy near your children?" The words stung like a slap. Jake felt a wave of anger surge through him. "He just saved our lives," he shouted back, feeling the urge to defend his loyal companion. Mrs. Thompson shook her head, dismissing Jake's words. "You can't trust a dog that can't hear. What if he hadn't been able to warn you? What if he had run off instead?" Sarah stepped forward, her voice shaking with emotion. "You don't understand. Max may be deaf, but he is more aware than any of us. He knew something was wrong before any of us did." The crowd murmured, and Jake could sense the skepticism in their eyes. They had always seen Max as a liability, an obstacle to their family's safety. But in that moment, they were witnessing his bravery firsthand. "Enough!" Jake shouted, the heat of the moment igniting his frustration. "You can't judge him for something he can't control. He's done more for us tonight than any of you could ever know." Feeling the tension mounting, Lucy, sensing the discomfort, reached down to pet Max, her small hand resting gently on his head. "He's a hero," she declared, her voice innocent yet firm. "He saved us." As the fire department arrived, the sounds of sirens blaring and the sight of flashing lights began to drown out the noise of doubt and fear. Max's eyes darted nervously between the flames and the family he had fought to protect. But amidst the chaos, a surprising revelation unfolded. The fire chief, a burly man named Frank, stepped out of the truck and approached the family. "I hear you had quite the scare," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "What happened?" Jake recounted the events, his voice gaining strength as he spoke of Max's bravery. Frank listened intently, his brow furrowing as he took in the story. "You know," he said slowly, "it's not just dogs that can sense danger. Sometimes it's the bond between a family that can feel it too." Jake looked at Frank, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "The connection you share with your pets can be deeper than you realize. They pick up on our emotions and instincts," Frank explained. "Max may be deaf, but he sensed your fear and the danger before you did. His actions tonight were driven by something much more profound." This struck a chord with the family. They had always seen Max's deafness as a limitation, something that set him apart. Yet, in that moment, they began to understand that it made him unique in ways they hadn't considered before. Suddenly, a little voice piped up from the crowd. It was Tommy, the boy from next door, who had often teased Max for his disability. "I'm sorry I said those things about your dog," he said, stepping forward. "I didn't know he could do something so brave." The crowd turned to look at Tommy, surprised by his admission. "Yeah," he continued, his voice gaining confidence. "I thought being deaf made him useless, but now I see he's a hero." The tension began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of understanding and unity. People who had once doubted Max were now acknowledging his strength, the very thing that had kept them all safe. As the fire raged on, consuming the house that had been their home, the family huddled together, their hearts swelling with pride for their little deaf puppy. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about love, acceptance, and the realization that true courage comes in many forms. In the days that followed, as they began to rebuild their lives, the family made a pact. They would share Max's story with everyone they met, using it to teach others about overcoming prejudice and embracing differences. The wailing of sirens. Everything seemed to fade into the background as they turned their attention to Max, the little deaf puppy who had saved their lives. "Max," Jake said, kneeling down to embrace him, "you're our hero." Tears filled his eyes, and he hugged the puppy tightly, feeling the warmth of the little body against his chest. The realization of what could have happened if Max hadn't acted swept over him like a tidal wave. Lucy, still clutching Max's fur, looked up at her father with wide eyes filled with admiration. "Can we keep him forever, Daddy? He's the best puppy." "Of course, Lucy," Jake replied, wiping his tears. "He's family." In that moment, the fire chief approached, his face serious, yet understanding. "Jake, I need to ask you a few questions about the fire. It's important for the investigation." Jake nodded, still holding Max close. "Yeah, of course. But first, can we make sure everyone is okay?" Frank smiled gently, acknowledging the family's concern. "Everyone is safe, thanks to Max. That little guy sensed something was wrong before anyone else did." "It's incredible," Sarah interjected, her voice shaky but firm. "He's not just incredible, he's extraordinary. He may be deaf, but he saved us." As the fire department worked diligently to extinguish the flames, the family gathered around Max, who was now receiving attention from the neighbors. They petted him and offered words of praise, slowly shifting their perception of the puppy they once viewed with skepticism. "Look at him," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice softening. "I didn't think he could do something like this." "Neither did we," Jake replied, glancing at her. "But he did." The fire was finally under control, but the damage to their home was extensive. As the sun rose, revealing the charred remains of what once was, the family felt a mix of sorrow and gratitude. They had lost their belongings, but they had gained a renewed appreciation for each other and for Max. Days passed, and as they navigated the aftermath of the fire, the family found solace in their bond. They spent time together, sharing memories of their home and discussing plans for the future. Max was always at the center, his playful spirit lifting their hearts. One evening, while sitting around a makeshift dinner table in the living room of a friend's house, Sarah proposed an idea. "What if we create a fundraiser to help families with deaf pets? We could call it Max's Mission." Jake and Lucy exchanged excited glances. "That's a great idea," Lucy exclaimed, clapping her hands. "We can share our story and help others understand how special they are." Motivated by their puppy's bravery, the family organized a community event. They invited neighbors, friends, and even those who had doubted Max's abilities. The event highlighted the importance of acceptance and understanding, showcasing stories of other deaf animals and their unique gifts. As the fundraiser took off, the family received an outpouring of support. People shared their own stories of overcoming prejudice and the community began to rally around the idea of embracing differences. Max became a local hero, his image appearing on posters and flyers, symbolizing courage and resilience. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. 1 year later, as they stood together at the first anniversary of the fundraiser, the family reflected on how far they had come. They had rebuilt their lives, and Max was now a beloved icon in their community. "Can you believe all of this started because of you?" Sarah said, bending down to scratch Max behind the ears. Max wagged his tail, his eyes sparkling with joy. He had not only saved his family, but had also changed the way everyone viewed deaf pets. As they took a moment to appreciate their journey, Jake turned to his family. "We learned something important from this experience. It's not about what makes us different. It's about how we choose to embrace those differences and the love we share." In that moment, they understood that the bond they had forged with Max transcended words. It was a connection that spoke volumes, a testament to love, courage, and the unwavering spirit of family. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over their lives, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by the little puppy who had shown them the true meaning of bravery.